Yeah, I mean, so like, what we're all used to is rates being pretty consistent. Like that's what you want in a company. All right, so welcome. Yellow Colored Glasses, episode 65. Wow, it's pretty crazy that we're already 65 episodes into this bad boy. All right, before we get started, we are going to read a review. Reviews are a very big part on everything that we do with our agency, and every single one of them is very much appreciated. So Travis D says, this team has been extremely helpful in searching for business and home insurance. I have nothing but great things to say. I appreciate all of your hard work. So thank you, Travis.
Yes, thank you very much.
Yeah, that means a ton. So that thing is loud today.
I know. I don't know why it's so loud.
So, okay, cool. So so today it's just me and Mikayla. We are going to jump on here and talk about renewals. Insurance market right now is pretty wild, so I feel like everybody's probably seeing some increases on their renewals, no matter what company you're insured with, and that's not usually normal. The actual increases that we're seeing right now, used to we would see $5-10 a month, and now we're seeing $100 a month. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, but before we do that, we want to do our peek in our pit.
Let's do it.
Okay, so I'll go first. The peak, we are going to Mexico.
You took my peek.
I did. We're going to Mexico. We're going to Mexico in 3 weeks?
Yes.
We're going to go down there with some friends after Thanksgiving. So I'm very, very excited about that. And a pit that I have going on right now is our heat is out at the office. So just been messing with that. Not a huge deal. We'll get it fixed. It's no big deal. I'd much rather it happen today than in the middle of freaking winter. So, So that's probably my peak and pit that I have going on right now. What do you got?
My peak, actually, I have a different pit from you.
Okay.
But my peak is the same. Obviously, Mexico.
Yep.
We're leaving for Mexico just several weeks away, so that's really exciting. My pit is at our house right now. Do you know what I'm going to say?
There's no Christmas decorations up?
That's also a pit. But the main pit is that our dishwasher is very touchy right now.
Yeah.
It is very touchy. Like sometimes, like right now, as we speak, it's on a working spree. It's working. And it's been working for several days. But then randomly, it will just stop working. So we're inching our way towards buying a new dishwasher.
Yep.
And that's not even, buying the new dishwasher is like a non-issue. It's just not being able to use the dishwasher.
Yep. It's the inconvenience of going and getting a dishwasher and having it installed. And
For me, it's the inconvenience of having a bunch of dirty dishes in the sink.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
And so I will say that on the bright side, this has really forced me to like stay on top of the dishes. So it is a very rare occasion that there's a bunch of dishes in the sink right now. And
if there is, it's because the dishwasher's not working.
Right.
Correct.
So that's the situation that we're dealing with.
Okay. Well, start us off with the renewals.
Yeah. So
I don't know what you're going to talk about.
Yeah. So here in the office, every department has a system for renewals. If you have an insurance policy, your insurance policy is eventually going to come up for renewal. Whether you're on a 12-month policy, a 6-month policy, that time is going to come. When that time comes, every department in our agency has a system that we go through to check your insurance rates. So Janie and Caleb for commercial auto, they have their own thing. Jake takes care of all of our commercial accounts, the renewals for the commercial accounts. And then for PNC, I take care of the renewals for that stuff. I shouldn't say PNC, personal lines. That's what I take care of. And then, anyway, I wanted you to speak on the market, like what has happened in the market historically and what's happening right now. And actually, can you speak on what you would see in the insurance industry back when you first started in insurance?
Yeah. I mean, so like, what we're all used to is rates being pretty consistent. Like that's what you want in a company. So I would say, like when I first started, you would see, I mean, at that time, there were certain companies that were, super competitive in different markets, but overall, like most companies were pretty consistent with their rates, right? Like at a renewal, like you didn't have a lot of companies like buying markets where they were just undercutting everybody, and then once the renewals came through, their rates would go up, right? Like it was always pretty consistent all the way across the board. And that's what you want. Like that's what you always look for in an insurance company. You don't want the insurance company to be the cheapest, like the absolute cheapest on the market, because typically the cheapest is not always the best, right? And there's things that are involved with that, right? Like if they are the cheapest and they're not rating things for the correct way, there's a bad couple years of claims. Well, next thing you know, their rates are going to be going out of the roof, and you're just going to be going up and down. You don't want a roller coaster. You want a consistent rate, ideally. So that's what we were used to seeing, right? So if rates went up, I literally remember companies would reach us out and say, hey, we're taking a 5% increase in the state of Missouri. And it's like, oh, wow. Like we got to talk about how a client's bill is going to go up from, $200 a month to, 210, and that was an issue. Like that was a deal. Like that was like people were not used to, like they didn't like that, right? So what everybody's seeing right now is their rates are probably going up, 20, 30, 40, 50% on average, I would say. And it's been going on. I would say it's been going on. It started probably about a year and a half ago, probably about 15 to 18 months ago. And it'll go on for another 15 to 18 months is what I would assume. So what's going on, though, is that insurance companies are overreacting to what has all happened with COVID and the increase that we saw, like the lumber cost, labor cost, all these different things that we've been seeing, spiking and rising right now. Insurance is delayed. So now insurance is playing the catch-up game, right? They're seeing all these losses. They haven't been rating things, the right way. So now they're overreacting. They're trying to build their pool of money back up, right, to basically make them profitable again, right? So what they're doing is they're raising everybody's rates. It'll probably happen again, like I said, for the next year and a half. After that, things should not necessarily go back to where they were at, but they should start to level out where you're going to see more consistency. And that's all you want in insurance, right? You want to know, like, okay, am I covered? Am I covered correctly? You check all these boxes, and then rates, right? Are rates competitive? Yes, right? Are rates consistent? Yes, because that's the last thing you want to do is get with the company and then have to switch the next year because they took a 60% increase, because they undercut the market the year before, right? Like you want a company that is consistently competitive at all times with all markets, realistically. So that's what we're seeing, and that's what we're used to in the past, and that's what we're probably going to be seeing for the next, like I said, year and a half.
Yeah. So with all that being said, with all these significant rate increases, we oftentimes, I shouldn't say oftentimes because it's very much account to account, but there's a threshold that we meet to shop people in our agency.
Yep.
So we have a system. The system essentially houses all of our policies. So even if there's, Bill and Jane Smith down the street, they have, a camper policy with Progressive. They've got a Safeco policy for a lake house, and then they've got Nationwide for their auto and home. Even though those, are all different companies, we have one system called EasyLinks that houses all of those policies. EasyLinks will also figure out the percentage of rate increase for each account on average. So what I will do in the office, and this is for personal lines, you'll have to talk about what we do for commercial lines. I'll go through and I'll basically set my parameters to be over 31%. So any account that has increased over 31%, they are going to get shopped. That's our threshold, even though we recognize that realistically 20 to 30% is a steep increase. We kind of have to have a threshold on our end to be able to, manage our policies. So anything over 31% is getting shopped. I'll get in contact with each family and say, hey, I don't know if you've seen your renewals yet, but it's a pretty generous increase. What do you think about this? I'll go through and I'll shop with all of our other companies. Sometimes where you're at now is the best option. Sometimes, even though you took a 35% increase with Nationwide is still your best option. Yep. But more often than not, I am able to find something else that is better than what your renewal is going to be. And I can get it pretty close to what you paid the year before. So that's what my process looks like. That's kind of what I do. And I go through them based on effective date. So if your renewal comes out super early and you're, today is November 3rd, if your renewal came out and you're renewing in mid-December, I have to take care of all of our November clients first. But that's what I do. That's what we try to do. That's a service that we provide to our clients. And that's the luxury of working with an agency that has options versus whenever you go to a captive agency, State Farm, American Family Shelter, places like that. And they're great agencies. It's just one of the pitfalls is that they only offer their own products. So, that's a
I think the modern day era of insurance is going to be options, right? Mm-hmm. Like you got to have options in the market that we're in, and it's only going to get that's only going to get more and more important, as we go, as time evolves. Next 10 to 15 years, like having options is going to be even more important in my opinion. Like if you look at the statistics of it, like I don't know, I there's like a 30 to 40% increase of people who have gone, insurance agents have gone from a captive company to an independent, right? Because a lot of these captive companies are opening up where brokers can get access to them, so it doesn't make them so exclusive, right? Mm-hmm. And I always tell people this, like, man, like people do business with people, right? Mm-hmm. Like they want to have a good company that they're working with, but they realistically will do business with people more than they will do business with the company. With that being said, you want to make sure you have a good company. Mm-hmm. But there's so many good insurance companies out there. As long as we rate something and write the policy correctly from a coverage standpoint, making sure there's no gaps within someone's policy, I mean, and you have a good agent, right? Like, that's realistically all you need.
I think that the agent part is
that's what I mean.
Significant.
Like insurance is good. Insurance is only as good as the agent that you have representing you. Realistically, as long as their coverages are quoted out and written correctly, and you are not missing any gaps, which is the agent's responsibility, most of the time it is a pretty. I mean, it's a pretty straightforward thing come claim time, right? And there's so many good insurance companies out there. Yes, there are some bad ones, but you could Google every company has bad reviews about, like every company's going to have bad reviews.
And good reviews.
And good reviews.
Yeah.
Like you're always going to see both ways. So just, I guess moving forward, like that's something to be mindful of is like, okay, hey, like, we all grew up knowing like, okay, like you got to be with State Farm or the American Families are like, but there's so many companies out there that are really good. Yeah. And it's just.
And have really good agents representing those companies.
Correct.
I feel like whenever it does come claim time, you want someone that's going to be in your corner. Like honestly, and now that I'm in the insurance industry, I know this now more than ever, but if you are currently with an agent that you struggle to communicate with, they hardly will get back to you on a general question, on getting a quote, on asking a billing question. When it comes claim time, and those are like some of the toughest conversations for us. You really think that they're gonna pick up the phone whenever it comes? I mean, if you can't get a general question answered.
Well, that's the only thing we can control as an agent is, we can't control rates. We can only control the type of policies that we write, right? And then how we service people, right? Like how fast we are, how efficient we are. like what our communication looks like, right? Like that's all people want. Like no matter if it's good news or bad news, people just want to be communicated with, right? Like if you have something bad to say, they want to know why this happened the way it did. No matter if they're gonna like the answer or not, they're gonna respect that they got an answer, right? A
Right.
lot of times people just don't get the answers, and then they're just pissed off
Right.
because they just never got an answer.
Yeah.
It's not about the answer, right? It's about just getting the answer.
Yeah.
So,
Or being communicated with, which I think is kind of what you're saying
Yeah.
here. Hey, I don't have any update today, but I'm still working on it. No
Correct.
worries. Just
Yep.
being, I don't know.
yeah, and it's not always going to be perfect, but that's what we pride ourselves on. That's what I feel like that's what all of our clients like about us. Realistically, is they love the communication part of everything. There's always going to be somebody out there that knows more than us, right?
Yep.
They've been in the business longer. They've got more companies.
Yep.
They've done this. They've done that. But it's like, if you put our service up with anybody else around, like there's no one that's gonna work harder, than what we do for our people, in my opinion. So of course I'm biased, but
But to that point, we literally did just have a client in here earlier today, and he brought it up to us. Like, yeah, it's good to be with
yeah, young, hungry agents,
that are
yeah,
hungry, active.
Yep.
You know that they're working hard versus being with an agent that is just kind of like lax and like okay with the way things are.
Yep.
So I feel like it's noticeable.
Oh, yeah.
Like
No,
even
it
we
does.
did not say that to him. He very much brought that up to
Right.
us. So
And
It's
I
there.
also say, like, I think it's also pretty easy to stand out in the market that we're in too.
the market or like our competition.
And I would just say like the society that we're in, and we don't want to go down a big rabbit hole with that, but it's just not very hard to completely just be the best,
Yeah.
because there's not a lot of people that want to be the best. So, anyways, we
So
won't go down there.
so now that I've gone through personal lines renewals, what is your process for
Yeah, so like on the commercial side, it's
actually what does commercial mean?
commercial lines, so like any kind of business insurance, right? Any business insurance, if somebody has a bunch of rental properties, that's going to technically fall into like a commercial policy, most cases. On the commercial business side of things, it's a little different. A lot of these are not they don't like pop up in our system, so I'll get emails on these things. They'll email me, like whoever wrote the policy, you'll get emails, and it'll say, hey, it's time to start the renewal process. You'll have to fill out your paper applications and send everything in to say, hey, nothing has changed, or whatever that looks like, to get the new renewal quote. It just doesn't automatically renew, like have a new renewal quote. Like you got to go through and basically re-quote it out with that company, right?
It can't automatically renew.
It does not, no. You have to fill out, there's answers, there's questions that they ask, and they want to make sure nothing has changed in the business. And
okay.
now that's not all of them. Like rental properties, they'll automatically renew. But
That's
on like
crazy. I didn't know.
general liability and certain companies, yes, like you have to redo all of that stuff again. So it just depends. But anyways, on the commercial side, it's a little different as well, because like rates right now are like, you're not seeing a ton of hikes on that side, unless it's on the property side, where like rental properties. But like, if you're insuring a contractor, well, I mean, the risk is the risk, right? The risk is that person. It's not necessarily going off of, the market value of a property or, a vehicle or something like that, right? Like it's like, hey, this is what type of business this person is in, and this is how long they've been in business. This is how we're going to rate this specific, client, right? So it's just a little different, but I would say that's actually, I've been seeing like a lot of really good, like all of the commercial accounts that we have, like they're renewing like pretty, like really well. Like the rates are not jumping up super dramatic,
good.
which is great.
So a more intensive process, but less accounts to go through.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So I think the point here, and we can't really speak on what Janie and Caleb's process. We could probably give a general idea, but we should let them speak on it. But nevertheless, regardless of what any of these processes are, the point is that we, in every department, for every policy, someone is looking at your account.
Correct.
When the policy renews.
Yep.
And even though like we have a threshold of 31%, if your policy increases by 28% and you're like, I would really like for this to be shopped, I'm always more than happy to shop.
Yep.
Even though it doesn't fall in our parameters, I'm still more than happy to shop. But yeah, we just kind of wanted to get on and talk about this service that we provide that we don't talk about too often, but it is being done on a daily basis.
Yeah.
So.
No, I think it's good for people to understand that, like, right? Like, I know everybody is not happy with the renewal rates sometimes. Like, I know that sucks, but just weather the storm. I guess our biggest recommendation is make sure you're with an agent. I know we're buying it, but like, I do think a broker right now is a very big asset to people right now, like in this market, and it's a huge deal. So I guess making sure that, you're with a good agent, making sure you're talking about, because like even if rates do increase, like there's other options, and I know we've kind of maybe haven't talked about this on the podcast, but there's other options than just shopping the rate, right, and moving it to a different company, right? Like sometimes we can review deductibles, right? We can go through deductibles. We can go through.
That's something that I wanted to mention.
Yeah, like we can reevaluate the construction cost,
Yeah.
right? Like I guess you go ahead and talk on that, because like I know that's something like, because like ideally you don't want to move from one company to the next every
100%,
single year.
100%.
Now, if you have to do it for a couple years, okay, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
But you don't want to do that
Right.
over time, because what will happen over time is that will start to affect your insurance score, because it's going to show that, this person is a shopper, meaning like they're going to be with one company for 1 year, they're going to move on to the next company the next year.
And you'll get charged more for it.
Correct. Down the road, that will catch up to you. Now, again, like I said, like if it's within a couple years, like where you're moving every year for 2, 3, 4 years, okay, not the end of the world. But ideally, when the market gets into a level spot, you want to get with a company and stay with them for 3 to 5 years. I mean, realistically, like that's the goal. And we're going to get there. We'll get there. It's just we're going to be bouncing around a little bit right now. But in the meantime, sometimes what you can do is...
And sometimes, like, sometimes I will pitch this as an option. Like, sometimes I'll shop around and I'll present you with 2 different options. I'm like, hey, we can keep you where you're at, which realistically is the ideal situation, and mess with your deductibles. We can increase your deductibles to get your rate down. We can do this for a year or 2 years and then drop them back down once everything kind of levels out. Or we can move you to a different company. And to your point, long-term, like our long-term goal for our clients is to keep you with the same company for 3 to 5 years. It is not ideal to prematurely move you before the 3-year mark. But to Jake's point, it's okay as long as we're not abusing that privilege.
Yep.
So, yeah.
No, I think that's good to know for everybody, because, I mean, you have options, right? And even if you only have that higher deductible for a year, right? And then once things calm back down, we lower it back down, right? Like whatever that time, like there's a lot of different things that we can do to help with that. So if you guys are seeing your rates, if we haven't reached out to you, prior to that, like we haven't personally reached out to you guys and you guys want us to shop it, let us know. There is sometimes some options with not having to move you. We can sometimes keep you with that current company, with that same company.
And then something that you mentioned earlier is reevaluating the reconstruction cost.
Yeah.
A lot of the times the companies will, like the system that they have embedded in their software kind of figures out the reconstruction cost for you. So sometimes we can go back in if it makes sense. We still have to keep you properly insured, period. Like we can't underinsure your home. It's just we're not okay with that. But sometimes if the reconstruction calculator is kind of overshooting based on what we're seeing among all the other policies, we can go in, reevaluate some things, and then go from there.
Yeah, because like sometimes like when you're seeing, your taxes increase, and it's because of the, of your property's value, right? Well, same thing. Insurance companies are going to they will sometimes just increase it just because of that as well.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's an overkill. Like I don't really think anybody can be overinsured like from a liability standpoint, just because we live in a sue happy world,
100%,
right? So
yeah.
like, there's so many things that could go wrong that, you could be liable for. So I don't really think that like you can ever be overinsured on that, but I do believe you can be overinsured from an actual property coverage standpoint, right? Like if your house only costs $500,000 to rebuild and you have $1 million in coverage on it, the insurance company's not going to say, all right, we're going to build you a bigger house. They're going to just say,
Never.
no, you overpaid for insurance over 20 years
Yes.
or 15 years or 5 years, whatever that number is. So,
And this is a good spot to reiterate the point that your insurance is never going to give you more than what you had before, particularly in the case of, well, really, and this applies to home and I was going to say just home, but really both. It's always going to give you equivalent to what you had before. So to your point, even though your home is being insured for $1 million, that does not mean they're going to pay out $1 million.
Correct.
That means they're going to rebuild you a home that is comparable to what you had before.
Correct.
And like you just said, you've just been overpaying for insurance by $500,000 for the past, however many years.
Correct. So yeah, it's just something to make sure that, we are on top of that. I feel like that's a big deal with rates. Like sometimes that stuff can, because that stuff is also hard for us. Like it's not like we get emails like on the personal line side with all of the different changes that happen.
Yeah.
Right. Like this is literally, and we have probably 1,000 clients now, almost pushing 1,000 clients, I would say. Don't you think?
I have no idea.
I think
let's do the math on that actually.
I think we're probably pushing 1,000 clients. So it's like, it's very hard for us to literally go through every single client, every single
1 year
Yeah.
on average. So
Yeah.
I bet that's right.
Yeah. So
If I did 45 clients on average every month, some
yeah, I would say
months
we're
more, some months less.
I would say between all the different like companies, we have about 1,000 clients.
That's
so
crazy.
it's like that's one thing you just we're human, right? So like we can only do what we can do. So again, but knowing that we have the service to go through, reevaluate renewals, or if we need to shop it, we can. But there are options, and that's why people do business with a broker is because of the options.
Yeah.
But just like that guy came in today and said that. He's like, I'm gonna let you guys do all the shopping.
He
for me.
literally kind of like he spoke about our entire business concept. He was like, "This is what I am looking for."
Yep.
And then he's like here in our office.
Yep.
And that's great for us because like we have an ideal client. Our ideal client is someone who appreciates coverages, someone who appreciates service, someone who values the fact that we have a lot of options.
Yeah.
Like that is our ideal client, someone that values those things because that's what we offer.
Correct.
So that's a mutual, compatible relationship. Our not ideal client is someone who just wants minimum coverages and pay.
Yep. Exactly.
That's not what we're seeking.
No, you don't go to the doctor and tell the doctor what you need done, right?
No.
Like what you don't
No.
you don't do that. You don't go to a CPA and tell them how how they should do your tax returns.
Right.
Like that's not how it is. And the time that again, like we all have our knowledge. I'm not saying that we know like we're anything better than that, but we are the professionals in the on the phone in the meeting. And if someone doesn't want to go with our standard of coverage, like our minimum standard of coverage, then we'll dismiss you as a client, like 100%.
Yeah.
So, or we won't even do business with them. And it's no hard feelings. It's just, we have a proper way, or we have a way and a process of doing things. And, you can respect it and work with us. And honestly, it's be the best decision you ever made, or you can go to the next person. So.
Yeah, 100%. Again, like no hard feelings.
Yeah.
You have to, if that's what you're seeking, you have to find an agent that is willing to offer you those things.
Yep.
Not an agency that's unwilling to provide you.
Yeah, because if not, we're just always going to be headbutting.
Inadequate.
It's just not going to work.
Yeah.
You're not going to be happy. We're not going to be happy.
Yeah.
You know, so it's just one of those things that that's okay. Like again, there's literally no hard feelings at all in those scenarios.
Yeah.
So what else we got? I think that's good.
I spoke on all the things I wanted to touch on.
Yeah.
I just wanted to go through the process of renewals because again, it's kind of a service that gets lost in the abyss because it's easy to recognize when you call and you add on a vehicle.
Correct.
You know, you always know that you can call the office and get that done.
Yep.
But
Or text. I feel like a lot of people text.
yes, they do.
So
that's something that really good to mention. We really try to make things very easy and very simple for our clients. Like, I can't tell you how many people message me on Facebook to make a policy change or text me to make a policy change.
Yep.
Because it's just easier. Like, we all have lives. We're all busy. The last thing you want to think about is having to call your insurance agent to get to the right department, to talk to this specific, and it's like, just shoot me a text.
Yep. No, I agree. I feel like that's I mean, I don't know. I just feel like the convenience of being able to text your agent. I can't really text any other. Like I can't text. I mean, we've always had our own insurance, but like, you know, you can't text like your utility company or your internet company or something like that. So I just feel like that's a huge service of, you know, being able to work with a family-owned business and knowing your agent and, you know.
Okay, one company shout out that I have to give on that point is Home Depot.
Home Depot, huh?
Home Depot. You don't know you don't remember texting them?
I do remember that actually about the
like whenever
returns.
You text them, your whole thing will turn orange.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
You're
I do
texting
remember that
Home
now.
Depot.
Yeah, that is fun. Yeah, we should do that. Okay. All right. Yellow Color Glasses, episode 65. Done.
Over and out.